Why should your company advertise on EDFL Web TV? EDFL Web TV reaches an audience drawing from the biggest sporting body in Melbourne's expanding northwestern suburban corridor, with over 9,000 participants and tens of thousands of families and fans distributed on a network reaching thousands of tech-savvy social media subscribers. EDFL Web TV can present your company's product or service in a top-of-the-show billboard, similar to a network TV sports broadcast, either with vision or still graphics. Sponsored segments are available and can be integrated into the regular week-to-week show. EDFL Web TV is also compatible with conventional TV ads, either professionally made or made by the EDFL. Customise your advertising package to reach the EDFL Web TV and social media audience today.
Hi, I'm Claire Varley and welcome back to the home of EDFL Web TV, the Pascoe Vale Hotel. This season, we're coming to you weekly right here on the EDFL YouTube channel, so make sure to subscribe to keep up to date with all our videos. This week we're visiting another one of our clubs, so let's go see where the cameras have been. Hi, we're here at Maribyrnong Park and with the playing coach, Robbie Castello. Thank you for joining us today.
No problems, Claire, thank you.
How much does being a playing coach affect the way you see the game?
It's not too bad. We actually we did a bit of work last year and set up a pretty strong off-field coaching staff. Obviously, we've put together a footy manager team of 3 people. We've got Paul Couleritis, my main assistant, Salve on the board, and Luke, our defensive coach, on the sideline. So for me, come Saturday, it's more just playing footy and just worrying about getting a kick and doing the right thing by the team.
What have the other players done to make the transition smoother?
I guess one thing, we were a pretty young group last year, and we recruited a few older boys, but definitely asked the leadership group from last year and a few of the older boys to really step up and take a bit more control of the group this year, which has definitely helped. We're still a fairly young group. I think our average age on the weekend was 23, so we're still learning, but definitely the older boys have taken a bit more control, which has been good. How
has your VFL experience influenced your playing and coaching?
Oh, a lot. I learned a lot. So I spent 10 years, a third of my life, at playing VFL football, and my last few years, when I knew it was time to slowly move on, I was appointed assistant coaching roles at Werribee at the time, and I just tried to suck in as much information as I could from the coaches, and just the whole professionalism of it all, and try and bring it into a local football scene without over committing the boys, because it is local football in the end.
What did you gain from coaching alongside previous coach Brodie Holland?
Yeah, Brodie was really good. He was very enthusiastic and delegated a lot. He had a lot on his plate last year in his last year coaching, but definitely the way his enthusiasm when he hit the training track and the way he got the boys to respond to his message was a real big learning curve for me.
Have you set a timeline on when you want to become a non-playing coach, or is that still too far away to consider?
Geez, I'd like to think I could keep playing for another 5 years, but the body is feeling pretty good at the moment, so hopefully we can get another few years out of me, and then definitely look at a non-playing coaching role later on.
Shaun Wyatt was one of the club's big off-season signings, but has only just got back on the field after getting injured in pre-season. How is he tracking, and what can we expect to hear from him?
Shawnee, got injured in an intra-club practice match, which really hurt his PCL, but come back last week. Was a little bit proppy on his knee, but on Saturday against Avondale really showed his experience and the benefits that he can bring to our squad. So expecting a lot more bigger things from Shaun. Looking forward to this week with his 3rd game under his belt to really show some bigger things. But he's just the ultimate professional, does everything right. He's got a very good knowledge of the game, so it's been really good for the club.
You're ahead on the win-loss count, but the losses you've suffered this season have been really one-sided. What went wrong in those games?
Yeah, you can't blame injuries, but we have copped a few vital injuries when we come up against Greenvale and Aberfeldie to our older players, which really hurts us being a young list. One thing we did learn a lot was, that they stick to their structures very well, and obviously they've got a lot of quality players. So as soon as we, go away from what we do best, and that's playing as a team, we can sort of be hurt pretty quickly. So I think we learnt a lot from those 2 games. We've still got a long way to go, and we're improving every week. We took some massive strides ahead on Saturday against Avondale, so really looking forward to responding again this week against Airport West, and then we've got Pascoe Vale. So hopefully that'll be our next 2 big tests coming up.
You've already used 35 players in the seniors this season. Has it been difficult to find a best 22?
Yeah, it has been. We've had a lot of these younger blokes are really putting their hands up this year, and we've had to make a few forced changes with injuries and all that. So you'd like to have a settled side, but one thing that we're lucky at this football club, we've got a lot of younger kids that are really taking some big strides, especially this year. We had Ruben obviously go down with injury on the weekend, but definitely putting his hand up for a starting midfield position. 4 under-18 kids have played this year, and it's everyone that we've given the challenge to have really stepped up to the plate. You'd like to have your 24, 25 players, but obviously with injuries you can't help it sometimes.
You've given a number of games to some young players this season. Tell us a bit about the Ruben Fulton-Grigg, Josh Cole, Conan Maher and other new faces getting a game.
Yeah, Ruben's just a solid midfielder. He's been a junior at this football club for a long time. Really come with age, really had to find out what it was like to play with intensity and be consistent at senior level. And it's the one thing the last few weeks that we've really found from Ruben, that he's really stepped up. He's doing the extras away from the club. Just a real hard-at midfielder, which has been really good for us. Josh Cole is a young kid in the under-18s, won our BNF last year. Had a really good year. There was talks of giving him a game last year. We were just a bit hesitant with the situation we were in. But this year played the first 4 games and was just sensational. It's his skill level and composure. We've put him back to the 18s at the moment just for his confidence and to get a bit more touch, but he'll be playing a lot more senior footy come the end of the year. Mm-hmm. And Connor Maher's a kid, he's at the Calder Cannons, another junior from this football club, who's just come along with confidence, just an amazing endurance tank. I think he won most of the runs at Calder Cannons, and he's just getting better with the more game time he gets. I guess the other face that, under 18 kids, probably Nathan McCallum, who played I think 12 or 15 senior games last year, and this year's played every game, and we're throwing him down back, and he's been our best key defender by far this year, and really going well.
What will it take for Maribyrnong Park to make it to the top 4 this season?
We've just got to stick to our team structures. I know it's everyone says that, and do what the team needs at the time. But that's one thing that we really rely on. As soon as we go away from it, we probably haven't got the top end quality like some of the other clubs have, to rely on a few individual brilliances to get them over the line. So for us, it's a massive 22 effort, and I think if we can stick to that and be competitive against those top 3 sides, and who knows, on the day we might be able to pip them off, but beat the sides around the mark. That 4th spot's definitely up for grabs, as we all know, and that's our little goal now. We've won more games than last year. That was our first little achievement, so we've done that. Now it's looking to try and get that 4th spot.
Yeah. Well, best of luck for the rest of the season.
Yep.
And thank you for talking to us today.
No problems. Thank you, Claire.
Thanks.
Thank you.
You're a couple of games into your season after a delayed start. What actually kept you off the track for the first couple of rounds?
I missed 11 weeks sort of early on, did the full pre-season, and then snapped my PCL in an earlier sort of practice match intra-club. Sort of set me back for 12 weeks. So it's good to be back out there with the boys finally. Obviously new club, new start for me. So good to be back out there.
First experience of the EDFL. How have you found the standard? Obviously, watching from the sidelines, you would have seen Marby suffer some pretty tough losses, but you're back in. The team's got a bit of winning momentum. Have you actually found the competition so far?
Yeah, actually surprisingly really good. Standard's a lot better than what I thought it was going to be. I'm really happy with how sort of the competition is. Obviously, a lot of the players in there have played a really high standard, VFL, ones, Stanford, Waffle, wherever they've come from. There's actually some really good players out there. Whoever you get matched up with, you'll play for the day. So I think it's a really good standard.
You've played TAC Cup and VFL, a lot of high-level footy. What was the motivation to come back to suburban football then? Was it just a decision at the right time to go and find a home club, so to speak, or were you just looking for a bit of adventure?
Oh, yeah, you could probably say that. Probably time to sort of move on. I was at Williamstown for 3 years, in and out of sort of the ones. Didn't get as much opportunities as I sort of sourced for after TAC. Only got sort of the 5 games at Williamstown in 3 years, so thought it was time to make a move and sort of find a different club and make a new home sort of somewhere else. Moved up from the country, living in Melbourne now, so always going to play footy. I wanted to play a pretty good standard, and EDFL was something that interested me, so went to Marby.
What are your impressions of the Marby team, your teammates and the setup here? Obviously it's a club that's enjoyed a lot of success in recent times, but when you arrived they just avoided relegation very narrowly. So how have you found walking into this group, first year under a new coach? How would you describe the place at the moment?
Yeah, look, the vibe, enthusiasm of the teammates have been really good. It's been awesome walking sort of a side that I haven't known. They've got around me, supported me, welcomed me with open arms, and now I'm sort of just a part of the team, part of the club and the culture that they sort of enforce here. Obviously they were very strong And then I did hear they were fighting relegations in my meeting with Robbie and Luke. And then after that, sort of want to jump on board and sort of help prevent that from happening and help them go forward with the footy.
And what are some of the personal benchmarks you've set for yourself this year? What are you hoping to get out of your own game?
Obviously, just I strive to. I'm a player that strives for my best at all times, whether it be pre-season, whether it be on field, off field. I'm pretty professional about the way I go. Teammates can sort of see that of how I've sort of trained through the pre-season. I'm just looking for a premiership, mate. That's the ultimate goal for me. If we can get a premiership here at Maribyrnong, I'll be wrapped. That's why we play footy. So yeah.
And now to the discussion panel of this week's episode. I'm joined by Adem Saricaoglu. Chief, we're down here at Maribyrnong Park. Obviously a great win for Marby at the weekend against Avondale Heights, and we'll get into the Strathmore Community Bank Premier Division talking points, but obviously a very happy club training behind us out here on Monk Oval and Walsh Oval.
Yeah, they're ahead of the ledger at the moment, win-loss wise as well, 4-3, and things are going pretty well down here at Marby. There might be a sneaky chance of getting to the top four when perhaps a lot of people wouldn't have had them there start of the year. So far, so good for Marby.
Now, we've got a couple of big functions coming up at Maribyrnong Park in the future. On Friday the 5th of June, it's their Sportsman's Night featuring Sam Newman, Josh Gibson, Terry Danaher. I've been to a Sportsman's luncheon with Terry Danaher. He is a fantastic guest. Des Dowling, and hosted, of course, by Tony Shebeki. That is on the 5th of June. Go to www.marby-lions.com for more information. And Adam, this one might be a little bit more intriguing to us because they've got their Team of the Decade coming up for the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s and the 2000s on Saturday, August the 1st. That is taking place at the Melbourne Pavilion on Racecourse Road in Kensington. And of course, it's for the Mooney Imps, the Riverside Stars and Maribyrnong Park. So the consolidated Maribyrnong Park club in the 2000s. I reckon Matthew Pilios might have a big say in who makes that Team of the Decade, but of course they're naming the Teams of the Decade for the 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s as well.
Yeah, well, a couple of premierships very late in the 2000s decade as well, Teo, so that would have had a major impact on the makeup of that 22, considering they went back-to-back pretty late in that decade. So, yeah, good function, and if, get down there if you're keen to get a look at, and I suppose learn a little bit about the history of the club and where it's come from.
So that's coming up for all Maribyrnong Park, Mooney Imps and Riverside Stars fans as well. But let's jump into the top talking points of the week in Premier Division. And before we go to our matchday interviews from Aberfeldie versus Pascoe Vale, let's talk about the game, because Aberfeldie absolutely dominated this match to win by 71 points, absolutely smashing Pascoe Vale, a battle of unbeaten teams, and it really was a mismatch in the end. But I guess the key thing we take away from it, as always, is that Aberfeldie have been here before. They know what it's like to be premiership favourites. So what do you take out of the game that we saw at the weekend?
The fact that Pascoe Vale are still a little bit away at the moment. I'm not saying that Abbas are going to run away with the premiership this year and no one's going to come close. I'm not suggesting that at all. But right now, the likes of your Pascoe Vales and perhaps Green Vale, obviously anyone below that has a lot of work to do to be catching up to Aberfeldie, but it is a long season, and Paco will learn a lot from that game. They are better than what they delivered on the weekends at Clifton Park, and they'll learn a lot, especially I suppose how to play on the likes of a Kyle Reimers, who was doing it at ease and doing what he liked. Basically, it was a training session for him. Let's be honest. But Adem Alhouli was very, very good on Ben Warren. He was my best on ground, Adem Alhouli, on Saturday. So, Paco will walk away with that with a lot to think about, and they'll have some time to get it right. There will be the second game before finals, obviously.
Well, let's hear from some of the key people involved. The best on ground, as decided by the broadcast team, was Ryan Allan from Aberfeldie. Then we'll also hear from Adam Potter, the Aberfeldie coach, and also the Pascoe Vale coach, Dave Morgan. Here's what they had to say after the match.
So we identified who their main targets was, and it's obviously Warren and Tydale and Pellizzeri. So we had those objectives in place for the defenders, and we thought that if we could nullify them, then it'd be very hard for them to beat us. But we're not getting ahead of ourselves. We know we've fallen short the last 2 years, so everyone's just focused. We have one clear drive this year, so we're all remaining focused.
You're down the other end, but what's it like seeing Kyle Reimers have 11 shots on goal in a half of footy? When he gets going, he really does get going, doesn't he?
It does. I said that to him at half time. It just lifts everyone. It actually does. And when he's got that attitude and he's on, no one can stop him. So he's probably too good for this level, to be honest. But yeah, it just lifts all the boys and everyone gets around him. And no, it's great for Aberfeldie.
I'd seen them twice. Luckily enough, we had a Sunday game, and I saw them play Keilor, and Also saw them play Strathmore, and we planned really well, our coaching group, and some of those matchups down back worked today. I thought Hooley, Warren's kicked four, but I thought he had a really good game. Jess Laurie on Pellizzeri worked really well for us. We knew Caruso as a half forward was going to roll up, and that sort of worked in our favour at times. So, yeah, definitely have a forward scout who goes out and watches the opposition, and we've been fortunate, that we've been able to go out and see games as well, and we plan and prepare really well, and that started on Tuesday night with our group, and a lot of that has worked today, but that doesn't mean going into next week we've got to stay on top of things and make sure we're well prepared for another game.
A lot of selection changes. Were some of them forced, or was this mainly based on horses for courses and the opposition that you were up against today? Yeah,
it was mainly based on the opposition that we're up against. They're not an overly tall forward line, so Daniel Thompson's been in really good form, and unfortunately he missed out today. We feel that Carboni, as an 18-year-old kid, is definitely in our best side, had to come in. Gareth Phillips has been really good consistently for 3 games in the reserves, and Jack Mole comes in as that small back, and Tommy McConville was really good against Maribyrnong Park in our reserves, and we felt that he also had earned a senior opportunity coming back from Coburg this week.
Did you see today coming?
No, not at all. Certainly Aberfeldie come to play and did a very good job. They were aggressive, they ran really hard, spread well, and didn't make many mistakes at all. Their forward 50 entries were great, and we just weren't really on today. We started off okay, kicked the first 3 goals, and then sort of faded away and waited for it to happen and just turned over the ball way too much. Yeah, there was warning signs because their forward 50 entries were just on top of ours in the first quarter. Remus missed a few goals. They could have been further up. I thought that they had 80% of the play, which was scary. I thought we'd turn it around though, which really didn't come to play today, the boys, and couldn't have played a much worse game, I wouldn't think. Yeah, look, I asked the players after the game what they thought of the game, and they basically said everything that I thought anyway, so that they're very much aware of how poorly we played, and I'd be very concerned if we did play very well and that was a score, but because of our poor effort or poor game today, I guess it's a reflection of how we played. Yeah, look, I love to win and hate losing, but I think it is good. I think it's a reality check. It's like, well, there you go. If you play bad, you're going to get done. And I think that's the premier competition. You play bad on your day, and it can happen to any of the sides. You can see some of the results today. By the sounds of it, they've been up and down, but it just sort of, it shows you that, pressure off in a way, but I really want to see how we rebound. That's what the aim is now. See how the guys really group together under a bit of pressure. We play West Coburg, which certainly won't take lightly. There's a bit of rivalry there with West Coburg and Pascoe Vale, so the boys got to get up and make sure that we bounce back. That's what I'm looking for.
So that was Dave Morgan there, the Pascoe Vale coach. And if you want to hear those interviews in full, click through to the EDFL YouTube channel and go to the podcast, because all of those interviews in full, along with an interview with your best on ground, Adem L. Hooley, will also be there. So as we come out of that, from Dave Morgan's comments, you seem to feel as though it's a wake-up call, it won't be too damaging, but could it potentially rattle the confidence of Pascoe Vale to know that they were so far off the mark against one of their fellow contenders?
Considering they beat Greenvale 7 days before, they shouldn't be too worried, I don't think, right now, Taya. They'll be okay. They probably knew that they're not to Aberfeldie's level just yet. The fact that they lost so heavily would be the concern, but like I said, they weren't at their best. They were probably caught in the headlights a little bit in that particular game. It was the biggest game they've played in since the B-grade grand final a couple of years ago that got them back up into this division. So, I'm not too worried at the moment, to be honest.
Let's move on and talk about Avondale Heights, because of course we're here at Maribyrnong Park. They had a great win that takes them ahead of the win-loss count, but Avondale Heights, they'd got a bit of momentum, 2 wins in a row. They beat Strathmore. Some of us were tempted to think they were back, and then they've gone and blown it with a very poor defeat. They were ahead at quarter time, and then Maribyrnong Park steamrolled them in the second quarter and held on to the lead for the rest of the game. So what does this say about Avondale, and where do they possibly go from here? Because there is no margin for error. The only way they can make finals now is pretty much if they win every game, and I think their form suggests that they're not going to come even close to doing that.
Yeah, it was the second quarter that did all the damage, 8-1, where they just allowed Marby all over them basically. And look, Patrick Rose wasn't in the side, obviously. That does need to be mentioned. And so Galea basically had to do it on his own. Michael Tanner went down there and kicked 3 himself, but the fact they've got the Northern Saints and Airport West in the next 2 weeks means that they can probably get wins there, provided they play to about 80-90% of where they're at, get the wins there, and maybe they will still be okay. They're only 2 wins outside the top 4 at the moment because there are a lot of teams on the 4-win mark. I'm not writing them off just yet in terms of finals, but they're a long way off from winning the flag, which is what I predicted pre-season. So, yeah, obviously not good enough on the weekend, but congratulations to Marby. A massive win for them. As we mentioned off the top of the show, Teo, they're probably going above expectation right now, and there's a real belief around this group that something special might be around the corner. Maybe not in 2015, but in the next year or two, they're going to be back and they're going to be a force.
Let's leave all the other issues to the podcast, including the latest in the relegation battle, a very important win for West Coburg against Airport West as well. Click through to the EDFL YouTube channel. On the podcast, we'll go through all the issues in depth. But let's move on to the headlines from Essendon Ford at Division 1. And I think there's no bigger headline than Glenroy getting off the mark and putting Hillside straight back into the relegation hot seat. It was only a week's relief for Hillside, and Glenroy with an emphatic win against Oak Park. I had a quick word to the Oak Park coach, Ben Chapman. He said it was one of the most disappointing results and performances he's been involved in his time as a coach, and that Glenroy really dominated the game while Oak Park drifted away from their structure. So a great result for Glenroy. The disappointment of losing last week obviously didn't last very long, and in fact fueled them to go out and get themselves off the bottom of the table. It'll be sweet relief for them. Oak Park with a few questions, but I think Hillside will be the ones that really ended up the big loser out of the weekend.
Yeah, but I still think they'll be okay, Hillside. You know, my concerns are right now for a couple other teams in the division. You know, they play good in patches. We know that. And they've got some good kids. They had Volpardo and Coletta back in the side this weekend, and you know, they were okay here and there, but you know.
Well, you speak about some of the other teams you're worried about. The other important game was East Keilor getting the win against Taylors Lakes. They move to their second win of the season, and Taylors Lakes are still stuck on 2 wins. I know that when we went out there for Web TV, they'd had a good start. They were ahead of the win-loss count and you know, seemingly quite confident about the direction their season was going. Is this the first time that we can legitimately say, hang on, they are in the relegation mix, or are they another team that we suspect that, a bit like Glenroy, they probably actually do have the cattle and the team to be able to play themselves out of trouble, even though they're on a bit of a losing streak at the moment?
They should be good enough to stay up, and if this, you know, if they were in Premier, then I would say definitely. But they're in Essendon Ford Division 1, where anything can happen. So anything can happen. They could still go down. You never know. But there's a few teams that they should still feel as though they're better than. They've been really disappointing though so far this year. They've gone well below expectation. There are some serious question marks on where this group is heading. We know depth is not an issue. They've got a lot of numbers down there. You know, how much quality is there, we don't know. They're trying to mix in a few kids into this side, but you know, a few big names are missing. Both of the Zuzas and both the Longos aren't in this side right now. They have not been playing for a couple of weeks, so hopefully they'll get a couple back there. And their only wins have been against Hillside and Glenroy, which worries me a little bit as well. So that to me would suggest third last is about right now.
Well, they're under the pump, and we'll get to all the issues concerning the top 4, including West Meadows bouncing back to earn a draw against Essendon due to Stars on the podcast. We also caught up on EDFL Radio with Jeff Nicol, the East Keilor president, at the weekend, so you can click through and hear that as well. You're watching EDFL Web TV. Now it's time to talk Division 2. And joining us to talk about Strathmore Community Bank Division 2 from EDFL Radio is Adem Russell. Adem, thanks for jumping on to the panel.
Thanks for having me, Teo.
You were at Hadfield versus Roxburgh Park at the weekend. I had a sneaking suspicion that this game was a little bit stiff not to be match of the round, and it sounds as though you were treated to quite an entertaining contest where the lead changed at every quarter break. Just give us some of your takeaways from the game.
Yeah, it was a real seesawing sort of battle. Both teams had the lead at various opportunities, and I think both teams could have won the match, but at the end it was Hadfield coming out on top.
So who were some of the key players for both sides, and what impressed you? Because, of course, Roxburgh Park making last year's grand final, Hadfield being the relegated team from Division 2, both of them would have aspirations to win this year's premiership.
Yeah, well, I think I saw the two grand finalist sides playing today. I think they'll both face off in the grand final this year for the Division 2 premiership. Standouts for Hadfield, I thought Steve Varley was probably best on ground for mine. He provided a lot of run through the midfield and kicked a couple of goals, as well as Sammy Stard and John Koletis also stood up.
And what about Roxburgh Park?
Roxy, they can take a lot of positives out of that game. They did come close, and they did have moments of really good football. They will be disappointed to lose, obviously, but I think they can take a lot out of that game.
And Adem Saricaoglu, when we heard in the pre-game show that Ben Stone was out for Roxburgh Park, we thought that was a major blow to lose one of their best midfielders, but obviously they still rose to the challenge of taking on the unbeaten Hadfield team.
Yeah, no, we're up by 14 points at three-quarter time, I think, and Hadfield ended up coming back and winning that one. I agree, Adam. I think it was the grand final preview. Right now, Moonee Valley have just dropped off a little bit, but
you're both jumping off Coburg Districts. I'm going to stick with Coburg Districts for now. So
I don't know. Well, it's such an unpredictable division so far, Division 2 this year. But yeah, Roxy. They've got a bit of work to do, but probably took a lot of lessons out of that game, and they'll face Hadfield again later in the year up at home, and it'll be maybe a different story. We'll see. But to me, it sounds like it was probably the best game in Div 2 so far this year.
Well, you can put it in your diaries for a couple of weeks' time. The broadcast van will be heading out to Cole Reserve for Coburg Districts versus Roxburgh Park. So when that one comes up in the fixture, we'll be getting a first-hand look. And I think, having heard that, guys, Coburg Districts might want to come out and make a real statement. The other big talking point in Division 2 from the weekend is the last remaining winless team finally got off the mark. It was great news for Keilor Park. They certainly had no shortage of motivation after being beaten by Burnside Heights last week. East Sunbury was the last team that they hadn't seen yet in the division, and they came through with a fairly comfortable arm's-length win in the end. We actually spoke to their coach, Louis Oppadesano, on EDFL Review, so if you click through to the podcast, you'll be able to hear that interview in full. But Adem Saricaoglu, this is just a great relief for Keilor Park, and I think East Sunbury will be disappointed that they've missed the chance to get that little two-game gap on the bottom of the ladder, and they go right back into wooden spoon contention themselves.
As was perhaps intimated pre-game on Saturday, Teo, we weren't sure if East Sunbury would handle the favourites tag all that well. The last time they were favourites, last year against Burnside Heights, that first game up at Goonawara, they lost, and that's exactly what happened on Saturday. Perhaps when a lot of people were expecting them to beat Keilor Park, they did not handle it very well at all. But well done to Keilor Park, they're finally off the mark, and some of the usual suspects, a lot have left, but Monument's still there and Stoneham's still there. They both played well, and that's what they needed. They needed some of their main stalwarts, I suppose, to stand up and make a statement, because the acid was put on them last week from a lot of different angles, and they had to respond. That's exactly what they did.
Well, for all the other games and all the other talking points in depth, click through to the EDFL YouTube channel and have a listen to the podcast. It'll also have all the interviews from Matchday Radio. That's it for the EDFL review show this week. Make sure you watch the preview video, which is coming up, and we're here, of course, at Maribyrnong Park, who've been our hosts tonight. Don't forget the Sportsman's Night coming up on Friday, June the 5th, and also the Team of the Decade for the 60s all the way through to the 2000s, Saturday, August the 1st. Go to www.marby-lions.com for more information. On behalf of Adam Russell and Adem Saricaoglu, my name's Teo Pellizzeri. Stay with us right here on the EDFL YouTube channel.
That's it for this edition of EDFL Web TV. Make sure to subscribe to this channel for more updates. I'm Claire Varley, and we'll see you back here at the Pascoe Vale Hotel soon.